So I guess we just wait till 5 o'clock and then I just start. Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can confirm. Okay, it's getting ready to go live now. It's like it wasn't moving here for a second. So, okay. Come on. Okay, we are live, and Ray, just make sure you're muted on the YouTube channel audio when we're on there, but we're good.
Ready to start then?
Yep, let me get the PowerPoint going here. Let me.
So I'd like to welcome everybody to the second. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the second town hall for the Siu System Strategic Planning Committee, and thank all of you for joining us today. I'm Shelley Tishkow. I'm a committee member, and I'll be the moderator for this town hall. Before we get started, I'd really like to thank Carol Walker for overseeing the creation and technical support of the live stream. We really appreciate his advice and knowledge. We value our input from stakeholders regarding the system strategic plan. And as such, we have posted a working mission, vision, and theme goals that were developed by the committee. We asked for feedback during an open comments period. And now this town hall will include some panelists that are committee members who are going to provide a brief overview of the work the committee has done leading to the development of our working vision, mission, and goal themes. And you're going to see those shortly. We'll also provide a brief overview of the comments that we received during the open comments period and comments from the live chat. So you can participate in the live chat by entering your comments in the YouTube chat box. And we're going to ask that your comments be respectful and relevant to the information that we're going to be sharing here today. So I'd like to note that this session is being recorded and it's going to be posted on the System Strategic Planning webpage should you want to revisit or share it with anybody who's not able to participate in the town halls. So now I'm going to ask our panelists if they would introduce themselves, tell us your title, your department, and the group that you represent today.
I guess I'll start. I'm Ray Goldsmith. I am the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for SIU Carbondale.
My name is Dominique Crosby, and I'm an Assistant Director of Residence Life for SIU Edwardsville.
My name is Bethany Peppers. I'm a second-year grad student in the higher education program at SIUC, and I represent the students of Carbondale.
My name is John. Our panelists are among a larger committee that represents the SIU system, the campuses, and our community. The committee is comprised of faculty, staff, students, alumni, community members, and these were selected from nominations from the chancellors of the campuses, our faculty senates, from student government, staff, and other constituency groups. So as you look on the slide, you can see that the committee is made up of a diverse group of members, and it's got pretty good representation across our campus constituents and stakeholders. We're really grateful for the hard work the committee has done so far. We're also grateful for all of you who are tuning into this town hall to have input into this SIU strategic plan. Before we dive into the plan and the processes, it's helpful to make sure everyone understands what the SIU system is. So the SIU system is made up of two universities, SIU Carbondale and SIU Edwardsville. Each university is overseen by a chancellor, and each university has an array of academic programs, including the schools listed here. Together, these two groups make up the SIU system, which is led by our president. The SIU Board of Trustees is the governing body that oversees the entire system. I think it's really important to note that the individual universities and some of the units that are part of them have their own strategic plans. So what are we doing here today? Well, the strategic plan for the system is sort of like a 30,000-foot view and serves an umbrella for the individual campus strategic plans. So we're trying to address the system's overall mission and objectives. So now I'm happy to introduce our first panelist, Dominique Crosby, who's going to provide an overview of the planning process. So take it away, Dominique.
Thank you, Shelley. So as Shelley said, I'll be providing a brief overview of the committee's planning process that's led us thus far to a working draft of the vision, mission, and goals. So prior to forming the strategic planning committee, System President Dan Mahoney formed 8 working groups. Those groups were academic program development, diversity and inclusion, economic community impact, employee satisfaction, partnerships, research, shared services, and student success. Members of these groups were selected from SIUC, its School of Medicine, and SIUE. In early 2020, President Mahoney presented his charge to each of the working groups in order to get some input as a starting point or some building blocks for the system strategic plan. The working groups submitted their final reports in July, and you can find those reports on the system strategic planning website. We have listed the address here, and it will also be listed at the end of the presentation for you. As the working group reports were completed, the system strategic planning committee was being formed. We met for the first time on September 18th, and we've met 6 times since then. Using the final reports from the working groups, the Board of Trustees planning notes, past system plans, and current campus strategic plans, our committee created a survey to capture input from both SIUC and SIUE alumni, community members, faculty, staff, and our students. Questions focused on general system priorities and additional priorities within the 8 working group categories that I mentioned. We were able to collect meaningful feedback from more than 3,900 responses to the survey. SIUC's applied research consultants conducted a cluster analysis that revealed some significant consistency of perspectives that led to the merging of certain categories to develop our specific goal themes. From there, our committee had in-depth discussions that resulted in drafts of a vision statement, a mission statement, and our 5 goal themes. Before we look at the working drafts, here's a look at the process for developing the strategic plan. On the left, you'll see the core planning committee and the vision, mission, and goal themes. That's where we are right now today. Once these are finalized, the next step is in green, is to appoint goal committees to flesh out our objectives, strategies, metrics for each goal theme. The things that we'll do, the things that many people think about right now, that's what comes next. They will provide their reports to the committee for review, and the SIU system strategic plan will be forwarded to President Mahoney. The president will then present those to the Board of Trustees, and upon board approval, the plan will be activated. The committee will continue to meet and monitor the progress by providing yearly reports to the president for sharing with the board. So that's my overview. Now I'm going to pass things over to Bethany, who will share with you what our working mission, vision, and goal themes are.
Thank you, Dominique. I'm happy to be reviewing the working versions of the vision and mission statement. The vision statement is intended to be bold and aspirational. It's a broad view of how we hope to leave an impact. The vision is to empower people of all backgrounds, students, as well as the communities we serve, and transform the world for the better as a result of all that we do. The mission statement is more specific and provides a framework and purpose. It focuses on who we are and what we do, and you'll see some key concepts that grew out of the survey work, as well as other work and the conversations of the committee. To ensure that we can fulfill our mission statement, we must have measurable goals. Based on its work and significant discussion, the Strategic Planning Committee identified 5 themes that will serve as the framework for its goals. These working goal themes, when finalized, will help us define and organize the specific objectives, strategies, and metrics that will operationalize the strategic plan. Each goal theme is further illustrated by a statement. The first theme focuses on the connected concepts of academic innovation and student success. You'll see that it emphasizes a real strength of the system's campuses, experiential learning, and also focuses on collaborating to create opportunities for students. In each of the slides, we're also sharing some of the key words or phrases that grew out of the feedback and the committee discussions to help give an idea of the thinking and the undermining that theme and statements. The second goal theme focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion, positioning the system as a national model that provides access and opportunity. The third goal theme recognizes that we have an important role to play in our region, in the state, and beyond. The fourth goal theme focuses on research and creativity to support both education and community impact. It also emphasizes internal and external partnerships that will contribute to the fulfillment of our mission. And the final theme focuses on supporting our faculty and staff and maintaining a sustainable infrastructure, understanding that our human and financial resources are critical to the system's success. I'll now turn things back to Shelley.
Thanks, Dominique and Bethany, for providing background and reviewing the working vision, mission, and our goal themes. As I think all of you can see, our committee's been very busy, and we will continue to monitor the progress of this plan long after we've finalized it. Our process is complex, and this is why important from our constituencies is so important. This committee will continue to address the needs and concerns of the system, which are going to be important as the goal committees further review and set the plan into action by outlining specific objectives, strategies, and metrics for attaining them. As we said earlier, we have welcomed feedback online as well as through these town halls. Ray Goldsmith has been monitoring the feedback. So Ray, could you give us a sense of the feedback and any questions that we've had so far?
Thank you, Shelley. I will be happy to. We did, again, have an online survey inviting people to give input on each of the goals, as well as the vision statement and the mission statement. We had about 100 responses, and I would say they're very thoughtful responses. People took time to really think through language and offer some pretty good comments for us. Most of them were supportive. Some of them were offering some additional suggestions. So let me go over a few of the things we learned from that, things we heard from that. We did have people kind of confused about what the system really was, and that's one of the reasons we added that explanation to this town hall, to help people understand that the system is multiple institutions under one umbrella and board of trustees. We had some people who were concerned about the mission statement and the fact that it didn't have the word students in it, which was a very thoughtful concern. I think the committee was trying to think broadly about audiences, but that's certainly feedback that will go back to the committee. We had some questions about whether the mission and vision really made us distinctive. Questions clarifying references that we had in there to people and all individuals, and wondering if we shouldn't be more specific about what audiences and groups we were talking about. We had some questions about the communities we serve, sort of similar to the questions about people. What do we mean by communities? Can we better define them? We use urban and rural, but not suburban. We reference global and national. What do we really mean? What is our scope as a system? We had a lot of wordsmithing, as you often do with these sorts of projects. Should the word allows be enabled? Enable, should embrace be provide? Should opportunity be understanding? So we'll feed back again all of that back into the committee. We had a few comments or questions about terms like inclusive excellence. Another term we had a comment about was sustainable solutions, and would those be widely understood in the statements that we had? There were concepts that some people just simply didn't agree with. They didn't embrace them. One was the role of as an economic catalyst. There was a reference and concern about being outwardly open about affordability and accessibility. There were various perspectives on the role of the system and what it should do, what it does do. But I think what we saw, there's a lot of hope. There was a lot of hope in these comments for real system-wide collaboration, which we were very pleased to see. We had some questions and some suggestions about things that weren't mentioned, that specifically weren't mentioned, that people thought we ought to mention, like international students, healthcare, safe learning environment, that was some of the feedback we got. We had some suggestions for the vision statement that basically kept the language, kept the concepts in the language, but just reorganized it a little bit. Some questions about what we really meant. When we talk about empowering people to change the world, how are we going to do that? And I think that's part of the role that will come as we develop the strategies for the goals. And then wrapping up, we had some suggestions or questions in specific areas about language. Should innovation be in the research and partnership section? Do we really need the terms national model and continuous improvement in their goals that they're referenced? So all of this was very, very helpful. And as I said, it was very thoughtful feedback. We're going to take it all back to the committee to vet, discuss, reconsider where we are, and make any changes that the committee wants to make, and then forward it on to the goal committees for them to flesh out the strategies underneath. So what I'd like to do is to talk now about some of the questions that we have. We've had one come in over the chat. We've had a number that came in as part of the earlier process. So we're just going to kind of plow into them and invite everyone on the committee to offer a response. And I think the first question that has come in is wanting to understand what the relationship of those working group recommendations are to what the final strategic plan will be, and how will those recommendations be announced and implemented. And this may be something, Dr. Gupchap, you might want to field as the coordinator for this project. Are you there? Maybe. And maybe
I'm here. I'm here. So very quickly, the working groups that were set up as was mentioned earlier were the building blocks for where we started. And so the working groups gave us several recommendations, and the working group reports are all on the strategic planning website. So, all our stakeholders can view those. If you go to the strategic planning website, the recommendations of the working groups are there. And then we used the recommendations of the working groups along with the other data that we had, the current strategic plans of the campuses, strategic planning documents in the system, and so on. And then what we did was we utilized those to develop the survey that was mentioned and look at priorities that are stakeholder groups. And that's where we got the 3,900 responses. And so all that information was used in bringing us to this point. And when the goal committees develop the objectives, strategies, and metrics, the working groups will inform them, continue to inform them about what the objectives and strategies and metrics would look like, because there's a host of information there. So did that explain? So the working group reports are being used throughout, and they will be operationalized in the objectives, strategies, and metrics when the final strategic plan is in place.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add anything? I think that was a pretty thorough and helpful answer. We have another question about shared resources. Remember, we had a working group on shared resources, and the question relates to, can we give some examples of things we might be doing now, sharing resources, and some things that have been suggested that we might do in the future? Does anybody want to tackle that one?
Well, I think I can or should, because my name's mentioned in that. And on Monday, I mentioned how we are working with the co-op faculty. Some of the programs that we share are the PhD in history, some engineering classes, and let's see, another environmental group. And we've been working on how to allow Edwardsville faculty who are in that program to have the same access to the research databases that we have at SIU Carbondale. And we're working on that. It's you know, it all has, and that I think will happen fairly quickly. In terms of sharing our library resources and databases and things directly, it's a little more complicated, and that has to do with licensing and the sheer expense of databases and what we share in common. And so that's a little more complex, but actually the good news is libraries in Illinois have perhaps the most robust system of sharing resources in the state, or in the country rather. So it's even broader than us. But I think we're looking at things where the SIU Press has got input and an editorial board that includes both SIU Carbondale and SIU participants. And so I guess I'm a little bit library and library affairs centric. So if anyone else has ideas, but we're always looking for things.
Spoken like a true dean of libraries. Some of the other things that were suggested in the working group were more operationally focused. Should we be sharing IT resources, HR, financial affairs? Are there efficiencies that can be created if we do more sharing like that? Is there anybody else who wanted to offer anything?
I'd just like to reiterate or talk a little more about the collaborative PhD programs. We also have one in pharmacology and neuroscience between the School of Medicine and the SIU campus. And so I think those opportunities for sharing coursework and sharing students and giving opportunities for students to pursue PhDs across the system are being developed as well.
We've had a question about the number of students, representatives on the committee, and how will we move forward with the working groups? Will students be involved in that? And I would add also that we did invite students to participate in the surveys and the responses. Would anybody like to talk about, maybe Garish, what we envision going forward?
Sure. Thanks, Ray. So the answer to that is so I think there were a few students on the working groups. There's a few students on the strategic planning committee, but as we go into the goal committees, there are these 5 different theme areas. And we will have a representation of students on those goal committees as well. So yes, there will be a lot more opportunity for students to participate and the goal committees will be made up of individuals different than the strategic planning committee. There might be some overlap, but since we're going to add individuals to the goal committees, there's a lot more opportunity for students, faculty, staff, community members that have not been involved up until this point to be involved in the goal committees. So that's the answer to. Was that the question, Ray?
Yes, it was. Thank you. A question that came from the original survey was, can we give some examples of internal and external partnerships? We mentioned them, In many ways, an internal partnership might be between the institutions. An external partnership might be between an institution or the system and an external agency, like a government agency. Does anybody want to expand on that a little bit?
I might take a stab at it here. We did talk a lot and talk some about how we might establish more robust internship programs for students, and how we might even have some of our researchers serve as external consultants for different companies in the region and wider.
So I can add a little bit about this. So again, this is where the richness of the information from the working groups come in. There's opportunities to collaborate, which have already been done. Different departments across different campuses working on let's say joint programs. There was mentioned in the working group reports of collaborations in international affairs. So for example, study abroad, those discussions have started. The honors programs working together, those discussions have started. So there's a lot of opportunities for sharing the strengths of the campuses. And those have actually already started, but we hope that that'll go on and be supported through the strategic plan. So I just wanted to add that.
We also had a question about where there were collaborative opportunities for research and creative activities. And I know we had a report on that. Some of the things in that report were of areas where we could collaborate are public health, because all of the campuses have a foot in that arena. Some research opportunities in industrial hemp are out there. So any others that anybody wants to suggest? I guess I must have covered that then.
Yeah, you covered it pretty well. There was other opportunities for students to participate in joint programs, the Successful Communities Collaborative. And of course, we're already working on rural health initiatives to collaborate across campuses with the strengths of the campuses. As John mentioned on Monday, there's or I think another panelist, Nick, mentioned, we have all these strengths, and I think you said the strength of the system, right, John?
Yeah, I think, right now we're at the 30,000, still at the 30,000 foot level, I think. And it's the next group that comes up with the objectives and strategies. But I think the general feeling among everyone is that we're number two of two systems in the state of Illinois. And although, that says something, and we are the system that represents the southern part of the state, and not only, sometimes that carries with it a rural thing, at least when you talk about SIUC, but we've got a foot in a door of a major metropolitan area in the country. So we're a diverse group, but our strength is in combining, and I think that's this collaboration that we're starting here is what's really exciting to me, and it makes us much more of a powerhouse than we would be if we are two campuses trying to wrest valuable, funding from the state legislature. We have a much more powerful stance, I'd say.
I think I'll kind of close with more of a philosophical question without meaning to scare anybody, but we've talked about the institutions that are members of the system having their own strategic plans. And we talk about in the statement, in one of the goal statements, our intent to preserve the strengths of each campus, even as we create strengths as a system. I'm wondering if anybody wants to comment on more of the experience that we have had as a committee as we've been talking about this and what we've learned just in interacting with each other in ways that we probably haven't talked together before.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things for me is that I got my bachelor's degree from SIUC and now I'm earning my master's here too. And so I've been down in Carbondale for a total of 6 years, and I've went to SIUE last year for a collegiate leadership conference that both campuses got together and put on for student leaders. But I just have learned so many things that SIUE does and how I could even potentially help volunteer, even just on a very, very small level of things that I can get involved with that they are doing at Edwardsville, and things that we're doing and how we can come together and make it just exponentially greater. While I was in undergrad, we did a trip called Syracuse in Springfield to help advocate for funding. And so one of the things that then came the next year was, okay, well, how can we do one with both SIUC and SIUE? I mean, we're all the same system and we all need funding. So how can we work together to do that as a collective student body of the system? And that, is even an even bigger impact on Springfield. And so just some of the cool things that we could do as a system just has really come to light, and some of the internships and some of the things that they can learn from our law students, or just different experiences that aren't offered on each individual campus, but together we can have so many more resources.
Anybody else want to touch on that?
I'll take a stab. I think I agree with Bethany that for me, this experience has let me think a little bit more about how can we find what we need right here in our own system. So many times institutions look for best practices outside of our system, right? We look to other institutions and we have a system. So there are many times where there are things that aren't happening on SIUE's campus. And I'm wondering, what is the answer? What's the solution? And SIUC is already doing that. And so the solution is right there. And I think the opportunity to collaborate and start having those conversations a little more at the system level and thinking beyond just ourselves allows us to find the solutions right there in our own people, and to find the solution not for one campus, but for 2 and even 3 campuses at once, which is a bigger impact. And I think a lot of us, particularly staff, got into this work to impact students' lives. And so then we have that opportunity to impact so many more people.
I think that's a great example, because it brings me to, I was on another system-wide committee at the early stages of COVID-19, where none of us knew what we were doing. And we learned it together. The campuses did learn it together and from each other. And it was really powerful to have more heads around the table with different experiences. And the campuses are different, but we were able to learn things about the whole process from each other. Garish, you came in. I thought you might want to add something. Okay, you're good.
I'd like to chime in as well. And this is not so much from my work on the committee, but once again, going back to this cooperative PhD program that we've developed between the School of Medicine and the SIUE Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences. We have our first student in that program now from the Edwardsville campus. And just before coming to this town hall today, that student gave a seminar in our seminar program for students. And it was like, wow, because now she did a project that was completely different than anything any of our students had seen before. And so it was so cool to see the breadth of information and knowledge and ideas that cooperative PhD program is going to allow for our faculty to do. And our students, because we have a small faculty here and they have a small faculty at Edwardsville. But when you put us together, we are a strong faculty and we have very diverse sets of knowledge and interests that's really going to benefit everybody that participates in the program.
Thank you, Shelley. I am done with my questions. I think we've covered all of the ones that came through live today, as well as some that came through earlier. So I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Ray. And before we wrap up, I want to give a quick review of where we go next. So the committee will consider the comments that have been shared as part of the feedback from both the town hall and the open comment period. We're going to meet as a group and we'll modify our plan and finalize it. And then we'll send our final draft of our mission, vision, and goal themes for endorsement by the president. And so that after that, there will be goal committees that are formed. And these goal committees will be charged with developing the action plan. So they're going to develop objectives, strategies, and define all the metrics that are going to be required to achieve the goals and the objectives and strategies. So this final plan will then go back to the president and ultimately back to the Board of Trustees for approval. All along the way, the plan is going to be monitored and annual reports are going to be submitted to the president. So if I could have the next slide, I would like to just point out that you can visit our System Strategic Planning website for more information to stay on top of the process. And here's the address on this slide. And that's all we have for you today. I'd really like to thank everybody for coming and participating in the strategic planning process. Thank you.